Your Highness Sheikh Moza bint Nasser, Your Excellencies, Dr. John J. de Joya, Dr. Muhammad Fathi Saud, Your Excellency Muhammad Ramehi, ladies and gentlemen, and Sheikh Faisal, Your Excellency Sheikh Faisal. On behalf of the students, the alumni, the faculty and the staff of Georgetown University, School of Foreign Service in Qatar, SFS-Q, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this celebration marking 10 years, a decade of growth, innovation, and excellence in teaching, learning, and research, and engagement with the wider community. We've come a long way in a short time, starting from a mere 7 faculty and 21 students, studying a single major. Our body of faculty and researchers is only just coming up to full strength this year, but already has some 400 scholarly publications to its name. We're now teaching 4 majors and 3 certificates. And after a mere 6 cohorts, we already have 212 alumni, active and prominent across society and the economy, including nearly 40 at top international graduate schools. By 2030, we are on course to reach some 1,500 alumni, well over 500 of them Qataris. And their impact is already very notable, as is that of our research across the disciplines we teach. In sum, we are well on track to fulfilling our mission of helping to build human capacity in Qatar and the region, and of helping to create a sustainable research ecosystem. Both of these being central to Qatar's Vision 2030, as well as to the mission of Georgetown as a whole. None of this would have been possible, indeed would even have been imagined, without the vision and initiative of Her Highness Sheikh Moza bint Nasser and His Highness Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa, the Father Amir. So my list of people to thank tonight must absolutely start with them. Her Highness, of course, as chairperson of Qatar Foundation, has retained a very direct interest in our work here throughout this decade. Thank you, Your Highness. The others meriting our thanks are too numerous to list individually by name tonight, you'll be pleased to hear. But they include all of our colleagues over the years, both here and in Washington, faculty and staff, who've been the backbone of this operation. From the pioneers to those I'm honored to call my colleagues today. We owe thanks to our students, who are the life and soul as well as the purpose of this university, and to our alumni, who are an integral part of our Georgetown family and now a growing source of support. We thank the many colleagues in Qatar Foundation, without whose support at all levels we simply could not do what we do. I also want to thank my fellow deans and colleagues at our partner universities here in Education City, including Hamad bin Khalifa University, because the synergies that are possible here are quite unique in the global education landscape. Thanks also go to our colleagues at Qatar University, led by its president, Dr. Sheikh AlMualim, whom SFS-Q has had a strong relationship with these 10 years. And finally, we owe thanks to all those in the diplomatic community and among the corporate, public and non-governmental sector here in Qatar, who've been our partners, formally or informally, and part of our broader community. Let me just give a special mention here to Qatar Airways, whose support was instrumental in enabling us to bring so many of our international guests for this celebration. But there are a few individuals that I do want to single out tonight. First, anyone here at SFS-Q in Doha is grateful to President de Joya, president of Georgetown University, who had the vision to see the importance of this initiative in the university's broader mission of global engagement. You will hear from President Joya in a little while. Ambassador Patrick Feroz, former US ambassador to Qatar and president of the US-Qatar Business Council today, provided the first crucial connection or spark between Qatar Foundation and Georgetown. Ambassador Robert Gallucci, as the then Dean of the School of Foreign Service in Washington, oversaw the gestation and birth of this project, and it's generally acknowledged that his drive was critical in making it all happen. I'm delighted to say you'll hear from him tonight directly. Also with us is the pioneering leader of the project on the ground here in Doha, the founding dean of SFS-Q, Dr. James Reardon Anderson. His status among all those who ever worked at SFS-Q is legendary. You'll hear from him too. Dr. James O'Donnell, provost of Georgetown University when this project was mooted, was instrumental in enabling it all and remained a wholehearted supporter throughout his years as provost. Dean Carol Lancaster was dean of SFS when I arrived in 2011 to take up my position as dean here. She sadly passed away last year, unable to see the 10th year become a reality. But she was an ardent supporter of SFS-Q and had a genuine love of the institution and its people, and indeed of Doha and Qatar. She is still missed, and we remain grateful. I also want to thank Dr. Mehran Kamrava, director of the preeminent research center on regional and international affairs anywhere in this region, our own CIRS, who served as interim dean of SFS-Q between Dean Reardon Anderson's tenure and my own. At Qatar Foundation, I want to thank or to recognize the two presidents who've been our partner during our decade of existence. Dr. Mohammed Fathi Saud, who was there at the birth and fully engaged to this day. And Dr. Saad Ibrahim Al-Muhannadi, now the QF president, but prior to that, a long-standing valued partner in his position as vice president of Capital Project. Indeed, it was he who oversaw the construction of this very building. Last but not least, I must single out Dr. Abdullah bin Ali Al-Thani, Qatar Foundation's Vice President for Education and President of Hamad bin Khalifa University, who's a genuine leader in higher education with a passion for the sector, and whom, as a consequence, it's been a highly productive pleasure to work with. Thank you all.
سعادة الشيخة موزة, Her Royal Highness Sheikha Moza, ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, I want to start my prayer with reading two verses from the Holy Quran. The first of which is في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه, which means God's light is in those houses built for the mention and glory of God, declared by the Almighty as houses of respect that must be honored. قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. Say, are they equal, those who know and those who do not? Almighty God of love and knowledge, we know that your knowledge is deeper and richer than every space and ocean. We recognize that those Georgetown, Qatar servants of yours have walked together for 10 years through the waves of life with love and devotion. For whom this work was of love, however hard and complex, offering their best for your glory and in service to truth, justice, and peace, with no tricks or hesitation. with selfless agendas and sleepless nights. Their work shined, growing to become a great Georgetown School of Foreign Service, Qatar, like a strong palm tree, deep-rooted in its foundations and standing up competing with high skies. What a great palm tree. Teaching us that yes, together we can prove that success can indeed be. 10 years and Georgetown, Qatar came out fully firm with a faithful soul, with leadership and unwavering will, fully determined never to fall, caring for academic excellence, the needs of community, and the hopes of students. They responded to every call. We have been together for almost 10 years. We actually made it through the hard times and tears, offering every possible way to succeed, working with Qatar Foundation, never apart. And now, God, bless all those who made it possible. Bless every mind and every heart. Stand by Georgetown School of Foreign Service, Qatar, in every possible shape and way. In your name of ilm, knowledge, do we pray, now and forever and every day. Let us all say, Amen.
Well, thank you all for being here this evening. I can't begin to express what a privilege it is to be celebrating the 10th anniversary of our School of Foreign Service campus here in Education City, Doha. During my many years as a member of our Georgetown community, there are few moments that I look back on with as much appreciation. Appreciation for what our university has accomplished over these past 10 years, appreciation for the commitment of our community and our partners here in Qatar to excellence in higher education. I wish to offer our most profound gratitude to Her Highness, Sheikh Moza bin Nasser, and to the royal family of Qatar, who provided the invitation to Georgetown to be a part of Education City and who has been an extraordinary partner at every step of the way. To the Qatar Foundation, under the leadership of Her Highness, we have been privileged by your partnership and by your leadership. The building that we are here in this evening is another testament to the vision of the foundation, and we're deeply grateful to call this place home. To His Excellency Dr. Abdullah bin Ali Al Thani, I want to thank you for your steadfast support of our initiative here in Doha. And to the ambassadors and foreign ministers who have joined us this evening, I want to thank you all for being here. And I also wish to offer my gratitude to those members of our Georgetown community who have made profound contributions to this effort. To Dean Noneman, to the Honorable Robert Gallucci, who was our Dean of the School of Foreign Service when this campus was founded, to Dr. Jim O'Donnell, who was our Provost, to Dr. James Reardon Anderson, the first Dean of SFS-Q, and to my dear friend, the late Dr. Carol Lancaster, an extraordinary leader on our campus for more than 30 years, and Dean of our School of Foreign Service from 2010 to 2013. We're also deeply grateful to our Board of Directors, the Chair of our Board, Paul Tagliabue, who was unable to join us tonight, but to two members of our board who are with us this evening, Aline O'Connor and Father Joseph Parks. We're so pleased that you could be here tonight. And we're also privileged to have with us Paul Pelosi, the chair of our School of Foreign Service Board of Visitors. I wish to express my gratitude to all of our students, faculty, staff, and alumni for your presence tonight and for your contributions to the life of our community. As you can tell from our gathering this evening, our success over the past 10 years could not have been achieved without close partnership, collaboration, and engagement within our Georgetown community and with our partners. In Qatar, a place where great ancient traditions are fused with modern culture, this idea of engagement is very much alive. For our community, this sense of interconnectedness, of engagement in this shared work, captures something at the foundation of university life, that we are brought together through knowledge and culture, and that in coming together, we have a shared responsibility to work for the common good. What we in the university do, the contributions that we make to advance knowledge, the young people that we prepare for lives of meaning and service, we do for the common good. What we have achieved here over the past 10 years demonstrates the possibilities of engagement, of partnership, and our continuing call as a university community to seek, through knowledge and understanding, the betterment of humankind. So thank you again to everyone who has made tonight's celebration possible, and to all of you who have contributed to these 10 extraordinary years here in Education City. Thank you. Sometime around 2003, 2004, as Education City was beginning to evolve, Bob Gallucci in our School of Foreign Service was approached by some colleagues in Doha.
The idea for the School of Foreign Service going to Qatar came to us, or we received it from the government of Qatar. They went to a former ambassador of the United States ambassador to Qatar, and that was Patrick Theros.
And when they asked him, Patrick Theros, to recommend a school that could set up a branch campus, he recommended Georgetown.
That was good of Patrick to do. Turns out he was a graduate of the School of Foreign Service from the mid-60s.
And that's why they showed up on our doorstep. Neither of us, I must say, knowing very much about the other. I thought, we don't set up branch campuses. This seemed a very large stretch for Georgetown.
I said I didn't think it was at all likely that Georgetown University, the School of Foreign Service, would be opening a branch campus anywhere on the planet.
And to tell the truth, I had never been to the Gulf, but I came down and we met with a delegation from the Qatar Foundation to discuss their proposal to establish a branch campus in Doha.
The very first visit that I made to Education City in Doha, and I was with Jim Reardon-Anderson and the Dean of the college, Jane McAuliffe, and the three of us were meeting with Sheikh Moza, who is, to use an overused phrase, a force of nature. We were completely blown away by her enthusiasm and expression of the vision. And I recollect coming out of that session, Jim said, "I think that went pretty well. What do you think, Bob?" And I said, "Well, Jim, I thought that went exceedingly well, and I'm pretty well persuaded."
You know, in the end, there were three very compelling reasons for us that enabled me to recommend to our board of directors that this project required our support. First, this was a project our faculty really wanted to engage. Second, we knew we were going to have an opportunity to explore global higher education in a very new way. The third, and perhaps most significant reason for us, was a mission reason. We knew we were going to have an opportunity to educate young people in Doha that we'd never be able to get here to Washington. And so for us to be able to bring a Georgetown education into the region as part of this exciting global higher education project was very, very compelling.
The agreement was signed on May 17th, 2005, and four of us hit the ground in Doha shortly thereafter, and there was no students, no faculty, no building, no school, and we had to open in August.
And Sheikh Moses' view was, it can be done, it will be done. And so we did it.
Somehow, magically, it all came together in our new student orientation at the end of August 2005, and it actually happened. I remember we showed up, we didn't even have recordings of the university alma mater or the national anthem, and therefore those of us who were there were about 20 of us assembled by that time, we had to sing it live on stage. We made it through that new student orientation, and we were in business.
My first visit came in October 2005, and I had a chance to meet with all of our students. And I remember the feeling, if I closed my eyes, I felt I was in Copley Hall listening to our students here on the hilltop. The kinds of concerns, the passion, the idealism, the depth of engagement. Oh, I knew something was very special.
Those were frankly, the best years of my professional life. I absolutely loved every day of being there. It was an entirely new experience every day. I never knew what the problem would be, and I had a tremendous time.
It's hard to believe this is 10 years. I just feel like we started yesterday. And I just can't believe that at this time in the history of the university, we were given an opportunity to try to understand what it means to be Georgetown. And for us to be able to do this with our colleagues in Doha has been just so extraordinary for us, and an incredible privilege and an honor to be a part of.
Your Highness, distinguished guests, professors, friends, I first encountered Georgetown University in high school through participation in its pre-summer college program and its Model United Nations. I was excited about the intellectual environment and the space Georgetown creates for its students to gain a true understanding of the world around them. I wanted to learn more and gave a great deal of consideration to applying. But I was concerned primarily about three things. Would the academic quality rise to the level of the excellence achieved over at main campus for more than 2 centuries? Would the Qatar campus foster free and uncensored dialogue? Finally, why did Qatar Foundation invite a Catholic and Jesuit university to open here? Despite my concerns, I applied and eagerly accepted Georgetown's invitation to become a Joya. Almost instantly, my first 2 concerns were resolved. The faculty, students, and the entire intellectual atmosphere was exactly of the caliber I expected. Indeed, my experience studying abroad on main campus confirmed this even further. The quality was exactly the same, and in my humble opinion, may even be a bit better due to the increased contact we Doha Joyas enjoy with the faculty. The worry about censorship disappeared almost instantly, as Georgetown provided open and uncensored dialogue at the midst of the Arab Spring, a time of great turbulence in this region's history. If open dialogue can happen at so sensitive a time, I knew there was no need to worry that I was not at liberty to speak openly. But what about the Catholic and Jesuit nature of the education offered by Georgetown? Would this conflict with my own beliefs and values as a Muslim? Very shortly, I came to understand that Georgetown was not here to challenge my faith, but to strengthen it. What I came to understand is that Georgetown values faith, not any particular belief. A Jesuit education is predicated on the notion that knowledge must serve a higher purpose. We learn not simply so we can impress our friends and families with our intelligence. We learn not simply so that we can get a good paying job. Instead, we learn so that we can serve our nations, serve our people, and serve all of the communities of which we are part of, and especially serve those communities to which we don't belong. those communities were not in a position to receive the benefit of a university education at so prestigious an institution. In short, Georgetown stresses that the privilege of education brings with it the responsibility of service, a moral responsibility that Georgetown refuses to let us ignore. This principle sounded extremely familiar to me when I first heard it articulated in NSO, New Student Orientation. Far from being a foreign ideology, Jesuit educational principles aligned perfectly with Islamic educational principles. They were a reaffirmation of my faith and helped to bolster my commitment to service. 4 years later, I now understand why Qatar welcomed Georgetown to open a branch campus in Education City. Stated simply, it's because Georgetown's commitment to service and to the greater glory of God mirrored exactly the vision and mission of Qatar Foundation. And I take this opportunity to thank, on behalf of all my colleagues, the Royal Highnesses, His Highness the Father Emir and Sheikh Amoza, for their vision and for inviting Georgetown here to partner with Qatar Foundation in making that vision a reality. Happy 10th anniversary, Georgetown. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your Highness, Sheikh Amoza, President Joya, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I had no idea I was going to be invited to speak tonight, but I'm really glad I was, because I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the people who made this possible. In October 2002, we were visited by a delegation headed by then President of Qatar Foundation, Dr. Fatih Saud, who became a very good friend of ours, and including Dr. Sheikh Al-Misned, President of Qatar University, and including our own alumnus, Ambassador Patrick Theros. And as Bob Gallucci mentioned on that film, we had no idea why they were there, why they had come to visit, or what we were going to do about it. But fortunately, they were very persuasive, and we ended up here. I must say, coming here was due in no small measure to the leadership of Jack DeJoya. Back in Washington, we call him Jack. He's not only a tremendous university president, but a fine human being who's inspired all of us to do our best. Once I got to Qatar, I was very pleased to have the supervision and oversight of Dean Robert Gallucci and Sheikh Abdul Rahman Al Thani, who kept me from doing too many wrong things during my brief tenure as dean. I also worked very closely with the members of the Qatar Foundation, including then Vice President for Capital Projects, Saad Al-Muhanedi, who, under the direction of Sheikh Amoza, oversaw the construction of this building. And I must say, not only is this a splendid building, but you should know that it was built with not one lost day because of injury of a worker. And I must say, we're enormously grateful to Her Highness for having insisted on a very stringent safety policy, and we're very proud of that fact, that this building was built in that manner. Back in Washington, I am supported by the chair of our Board of Visitors, Paul Pelosi, who's here with us tonight, and also Steve Buffone, his colleague, who play a major role in helping us back in Washington. And there are so many of my colleagues and the faculty and staff here, I couldn't possibly mention all of you, but I'd like to symbolically single out a number of you who can represent the very fine group of people who we've assembled here. First of all, the woman who came out insisting that she would come only for 1 year, Dr. Amira Sanbol, who has now completed her 10th year. Dr. Sanbol has now completed her 10th year as professor of Middle Eastern history here and is now chair of the SFS-Q faculty, and we're enormously grateful to her. I'd also like to mention our very first employee in Qatar, a person who came out here and set up the offices over in the back alleys of Qatar Academy and oversaw this entire operation for the past 10 years and is responsible for this gala tonight, Maya Primorak. It would of course be an oversight not to mention that we've been fortunate to recruit many fine locals to our employ, and our very first employee here from the community is with us tonight, Hussein Al-Dabashi. Of course, a school is only as good as its students. If the students are dull and lazy, there's almost nothing the faculty can do to rectify the situation. If the students are bright and energetic, there's almost nothing the faculty can do to screw it up. Fortunately, we have had the brightest and most energetic students I could imagine, and we're now very grateful to them for having built this enterprise and now succeeded as alumni of Georgetown University. Finally, I would be remiss not to mention my former colleague and dean, Carol Lancaster, who actually came out to Doha 10 years ago for the very first new student orientation. She came back here many times, was devoted to this project even before she was dean, and oversaw the project until her passing now last summer. And I think we have a moment to remember Dean Lancaster.
Your Highness, esteemed guests, colleagues, and students, good evening. When I was asked to give the faculty address at tonight's event, I admit I was quite surprised. As a new arrival, how could I presume to account for the decade of hard work, commitment, and foresight that my colleagues invested in this institution, while at the same time speak meaningfully about the future in a way that was fitting for marking Georgetown's 10th year here? At the same time, I was also very honored. Their faith in me as a new junior member of the faculty is emblematic of the warm, collegial, and friendly environment here at Georgetown. You feel it when you walk into the building, and you feel it even more when you're starting a career here. It is something that I value and cherish, and something that makes my role tonight here much easier. That being said, I still had a challenge before me. So I did what all academics do. I ran to my library and tried to find some inspiration. One of my quirks, or academic idiosyncrasies if you may, is to read old Arabic dictionaries. Now, while this may seem like an awfully dull pastime, it's actually a very rich activity. all words in Arabic reduce to 3 or 4 root letters. And what is perhaps most interesting for me is that words that often seem to have no connection with one another actually imbue within them a very intimate relationship. These intimate relationships between words reveal not only subtleties within the language, but it also reveals how Arabs came to construct an act within a world. What is most striking to me is that the word for 10, ashra, and the word for community, ashira, share the exact same root. With a single change, you go from speaking about a word to speaking about a concept. And this begs a question, and one that I think is very important for tonight's celebration. What is the relationship between this number 10 and this idea of community? If we look at it in terms of years, we can simply understand it by looking around this space, where current and past faculty, current and past students, and current and past staff have all gathered not to celebrate Georgetown's 10th year presence in Qatar, but to celebrate 10 years of Georgetown's commitment to fostering companionship, friendship, and belonging to its staff, its students, and its supporters. If, on the other hand, we look at it in terms of number, then we can take a look at our classrooms, where groups of 10 to 15 students represent a microcosm of this much larger community. Whether speaking about the details of Islamic law, the development of Islamic intellectual thought, or even religious trends in the modern period, my students consistently ask poignant and provocative questions that change meaningfully the people of this institution and this community as well. This is paralleled elsewhere on campus on a daily basis, in lunchtime debates between staff and students, in bi-monthly faculty colloquiums, in monthly dialogues, in office hours, and even in the corridor. All around, we can see Georgetown students and faculty ceaselessly engaged, incessantly curious, and perpetually contributing to what makes this place special, the opportunity to learn, to teach, and to share knowledge in a communal environment. It is truly an interdisciplinary place in and outside of the classroom in terms of subject area and in terms of temperament. I have seen it for myself in the first 6 months here, and for that I pay tribute to all of those faculty and students that came before me. It is they who have fostered this community of learning that promotes growth and intellectual rigor and gives this institution its stature both locally and internationally. In concluding now, if we return to this idea of 10 and this idea of community, perhaps 10 members together first creates what can be known as a community, and perhaps 10 years allows that community to become larger and establish itself in society. In this process, communities build symbiotic relationships of trust and responsibility, which must be actively sustained both internally and externally. In fact, the lauded Islamic historian Ibn Khaldun saw that the success and failure of all communities comes down to what he denotes as asabiya, which is usually translated as social or community cohesion. For Georgetown, this means that its community extends beyond the confines of this wall, to all of its supporters within society itself, and to all of the graduates that leave this space to embark on careers in companies and institutions that sustain and drive society forward. As faculty, then, we have a responsibility to see to the flourishing of this community in terms of our teaching and research, and also in terms of our outreach and connection with society. This means building on the work of our predecessors, as well as leaving a mark for our successors. If the creation of a community is the marker for the first 10 years, then I see growth, innovation, and ingenuity as markers for the next 10. This is a challenge and a responsibility, one that I and my colleagues embrace with hope and anticipation as we direct ourselves to a new common goal. Thank you.
ورد الباب كحل اهداب نسيت اعمل لقلبي حجاب وقلبي داب 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 رموشه تميل على خده جناح رفرف على ورده رموشه تميل على خده جناح رفرف على ورده ولو طلب القمر وده أمل كداب أمل كداب نسيت أعمل لقلبي حجاب قلبي داب سحب رمشه ورد الباب سحب رمشه ورد الباب كحل اهداب نسيت أعمل لقلبي حجاب وقلبي داب 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 كحيل كحيل والكحل من بابل وإمتى عيوننا تتقابل كحيل كحيل والكحل من بابل وإمتى عيوننا تتقابل يا ريت نظرة وأنا قابل ولو بعتاب ولو بعتاب نسيت أعمل لقلبي حجاب قلبي داب سحب رمشه ورد الباب سحب رمشه ورد الباب كحل اهداب نسيت أعمل لقلبي حجاب وقلبي داب 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 غزل أنفاسه تتنسم عبير والخطوة تتقسم غزل أنفاسه تتنسم عبير والخطوة تتقسم نغم وشفايفه تتبسم ولا العناب ولا العناب نسيت أعمل لقلبي حجاب قلبي داب سحب رمشه ورد الباب سحب رمشه ورد الباب كحل اهداب نسيت أعمل لقلبي حجاب وقلبي داب داب داب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Your Highness, Sheikh Moazza bint Nasser, President John de Joya, Your Excellencies, esteemed guests, I am honored to be standing before you tonight to speak on behalf of the alumni community in celebration of the passing of 10 years since the establishment of Georgetown's School of Foreign Service in Qatar. My journey with Georgetown began with a question in 2005 during my admissions interview. Tell me about yourself, asked Father Ryan Maher, who was Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs during that time. To which I responded something like, I am a Qatari woman who is witnessing her country ambitiously transforming into a global player. And from being a witness, I would like to become an active contributor in spite of the challenges that I am bound to face. Our class started with just 21 students. We were welcomed by Dean Reardon Anderson and 7 faculty members, not knowing at that time that they were going to be our mentors and family for years to come. It was an exciting moment as we were Georgetown's first inaugural class, and we were hungry for knowledge and curious as to what was to come next. I still remember our first lesson in philosophy, Plato's allegory of the cave, a concept I struggled to understand. In simple terms, the majority of people perceive reality at face value as it is presented to them. Only few venture fully and meaningfully to understand it, and education and philosophy are the tools through which these could be attained. Of course, Professor Mitchell can correct me on that. My classmates and I were determined to attain those tools. And Georgetown and a Georgetown education provided us with them and empowered us to explore our individual expressions of reality within the context that we live in. We didn't just learn politics or culture or economics. We learned how to think and how to critically engage with the world around us. In our growth, we were challenged not only intellectually, but also personally. We quickly realized that Georgetown was not merely delivering a degree. It was educating the whole person and creating leaders, and that we, the students, had a responsibility to ourselves and to our society to become women and men for others and to acquire and produce knowledge, for the world was being prepared to embrace a new generation of thinkers. Now, 10 years have passed, and I pause to reflect. I'm proud of my fellow alumni for their accomplishments and success in living up to Georgetown's values. I'm grateful for the compassionate mentorship that our faculty provided to us throughout the years. And in her presence, Her Highness Sheikha Moza bint Nasser, I stand today to specially thank her for her inspiring vision. If it was not for Qatar's steadfast efforts to become a hub for education and research, I would not have had this unique opportunity to study and learn at a world-class educational institution like Georgetown. The dedicated visionaries of Education City have created a place where knowledge can flourish and opportunities are endless. Today, I carry Georgetown with me, and when I get lost, I come back to the values that have been cultivated by my alma mater. Now that 6 years have passed since I graduated, Georgetown still feels like home. We are in a new building, I am greeted by new faces, but Georgetown's spirit remains the same. I had the privilege of being part of Georgetown's community from the beginning, and as it grows, I grow with it. Finally, I would like to thank the efforts of the Georgetown community for allowing this institution to grow and become the place that it is today. Congratulations on 10 years, and Joya Saksa.
Your Highness, President Joya, ladies and gentlemen, I very, very much appreciate this opportunity to share some thoughts with you this evening. I do promise to be brief. I have really but 2 thoughts. The first is that it was a very important thing that this experiment, transplanting a branch of Georgetown University School of Foreign Service, actually succeed and take root. After 10 years, I believe it has done that. For all of us in Doha and in Washington who were involved in bringing a Catholic Jesuit institution to this region, it would have been simply unthinkable to have failed to cultivate that branch and see it grow. In fact, the experiment showed that when there is tolerance and respect for other religious traditions, religious diversity need not undercut an institution, particularly one committed to the values of a liberal arts education. Ultimately, it counted more that we shared a belief in the importance of religion to human experience than that we shared the same religion, and that's a good lesson. So my first observation is that SFS Qatar needed to succeed very much in its first 10 years. And my second observation is that it is even more important that it succeed in the next 10 years. And here's why. There is a debate of sorts going on in Washington now over whether or not we should characterize the horrendous brutality of the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, ISIS, and the recent slaughter in Paris as acts committed by Islamic extremists, or simply as terrorist acts. The Obama administration, at least as I understand it, favors the latter, arguing that there is no reason to implicate a whole religion which does not, in fact, countenance these acts of violence against innocents. The counter-argument is that we ought not fail to be honest about the identity of the perpetrators out of some misguided sense of political correctness. Now, I don't propose to resolve or even dip into that argument. Rather, I simply want us all to recall what happens when we label other people in a way that separates them from ourselves. That act allows others to be understood as them, and most importantly, as not us. Many of you know that one way to persuade people to commit acts of violence against others is to create a narrative that dehumanizes the target population, to deny them their identities as sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers. Among the outcomes we have sought here in Qatar is to create an experience in which there is no us and them, but instead a we. We who have come together to pursue a common mission. Georgetown University's School of Foreign Service, like the other campuses of Education City, draws its faculty, students, and administrators from this country and this region, from the United States and many other countries, for the common purpose of providing and enjoying the benefits of a world-class education. I do not think that the times we are in right now will soon be a-changing, as the song goes. Enduring examples of tolerance and respect for other cultures that do not imply abandonment of one's own values and traditions will stand against the hate and violence we see around us now. Such examples will be in great demand, and I fear in short supply. Ladies and gentlemen, it is therefore vitally important that we together succeed at what we do here. Thank you very much.
Your Highness, Sheikh Moza bin Nasser, on behalf of Georgetown University, I wish to express our deep gratitude to you to help share what you have meant to our community. We have a gift to present to you. This gift contains two very special publications. One is the story of Georgetown University's partnership with the Qatar Foundation. Under your patronage and support, our reflection of how much has been achieved with your vision over these past 10 years. The other is a compilation of personal notes of gratitude from members of Georgetown University, faculty, staff, students, alumni, and our families. Ladies and gentlemen, I now wish to invite to the stage Her Highness, Sheikh Moza bin Nasser. Highness, I have the privilege of presenting you with this expression of our appreciation. We offer it with our deepest gratitude.
O loving God, merciful and compassionate, we praise you and thank you for your guidance and your grace in accompanying Georgetown University School of Foreign Service in Qatar during these past 10 years. And we ask your blessing on the coming years so that we may do your will and provide a good educational opportunity for all our students. Bless our students and our alumni, our faculty and staff, and help us never to forget your loving presence in our lives. Amen.
Your Highness, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sharing this evening with us. But please remain seated while the VIP party exit the venue. And please then join us for a reception out there. Thank you.